I'm on the hunt for the top 5 players with the most juice in the league. I could have easily gone off the top 5 home run hitters from last year, or I could have went with the biggest and strongest, but no, Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton don't make this list. I thought about it more like this. If my player has one at bat to hit a home run, which players are most likely to do so? Therefore, you have to dig a little deeper when you're talking about usable power. You need to take into account not only homers and isolated power, but also ballparks in which a player plays, as well as how consistent he is with the juice. Has it been just one season? Has it been multiple seasons? With that being said, my honorable mention starts with Salvador Perez. And now I'll proceed with the list. I'll let you examine it and fight with me in the comments. Okay, let's start with number 5. This spot has to go to Mike Trout. Even though last year wasn't Trout's strongest year with the juice, especially after missing most of the season due to injury, but we still have to take into account what this dude has done over the last 6 years when it comes to isolated power. If you're unfamiliar with the term, it's used to measure a batter's raw power. Your isolated power number tells us how many extra bases a player averages per at-bat. Over the span of the last 6 seasons, Trout still leads all players in that category. Think about how many of those seasons are injury impacted too. To say the least, Trout hits shots on command and he's as consistent as they come. When he plays a full healthy season, he easily has some of the most juice in the game. Now we just got to get him into the playoffs, but that's a whole nother story. Number 4 for the most juice in the league is Bryce Harper. And I know there's going to be controversy with this one because he finished 17th on the home run list this past year, but don't forget he was 3rd in the league with 100 walks and still number 1 in slugging percentage. So hear me out. He has had some of the most juice since he stepped into the league at age 19. Power has always been a part of this man's game, but we've seen him win not 1, but 2 MVPs because of the consistency in which he shows it off. He's not afraid to spread the home run love all over the field too. And when Bryce touches a ball, there's no telling where that ball's gonna land. If you're sitting in the upper deck, you still should bring your glove because he's liable to send a souvenir your way. We are talking moonshots. He wouldn't be on this list if he didn't go off this past year, especially down the stretch. He absolutely carried his team. Bryce's juice is nothing to play with. Number 3 on the list of the most juice in the league. I thought about leaving Fernando Tatis off this list because maybe we haven't seen enough of his power to truly have him on here, but then I just said don't overthink it. Over the last 2 seasons, no one has hit more homers than Fernando. Some of you are going to need to see more, but I've seen enough already. He has the most isolated power over that same 2-year span. His chances of stepping to the plate and hitting a home run are just as good as anyone else's in the league, and to think that this kid is only going to get stronger and more powerful is even scary to think about. He's almost a cheat code because the juice was already built into his DNA. He had a .611 slugging percentage last year, and let's not forget he was battling shoulder injuries all throughout last season as well. A full healthy season and he puts up more than 50 homers, no doubt in my mind. Number 2 on this list is someone we kept hearing about having ridiculous power, and we even saw the Japanese highlight tapes and all, but we were still waiting to be made believers. Shohei Ohtani, we now believe. 46 homers was unreal last year considering what he was doing on the bump too. But it's not just the number of home runs. Ohtani routinely hits the ball harder and farther than anyone else in the league. He was in the top 1% in the league when it came to barrel percentage, exit velo, and max exit velo. Meaning not only is he extremely likely to rocket a ball into the seats, but also you better keep your head on a swivel because that ball is like a seeking missile ready to take a fan's face off. And Angel Stadium ain't necessarily conducive to hitting homers. He made that stadium and many others look like a wiffle ball field. Like the fields he's playing on need bigger dimensions before somebody seriously gets hurt. Oh, and what if he gets real Mike Trout protection next year? Scary. The number 1 player with the most juice in the MLB already had the juice the day he was born. The juice was passed down from his daddy. But now Vladimir Guerrero Jr. seems to have even more power than his pops. Led the league in homers last year, but more importantly at age 22, we saw him use the power in some of the biggest moments for his team last year. He's really just touching the surface of how good he could be. Don't forget, he only hit 15 homers in 2019 and 9 in the shortened 2020. He has ultimately figured it out in one of the strongest divisions in baseball, and he was tops in isolated power last year. I think about what we can appreciate most about Vladdy is that he isn't just a free swinging power hitter. He has a thoughtful, strategic plan at the plate and doesn't force his power to come into play. He's decisive with it. 72 homers in his first 344 games. Needless to say, he's got the most juice in the league. Examine the extraordinary and let me know what you got. I'm ready to fight in the comments.